it's given me so much trauma. Why should I trust it? Why should I trust spirit? It doesn't have my back. Nothing has my back. And I thought, oh yeah, I know this territory really well. And so I knew that with time and working with her, I could sort of reignite that that trust and that belief in the universe, in spirit again, but also within herself, and really empower her to own that she can control her own life. But it's been a lot of work, because whilst she has a lot of trauma, it's slightly different to me, but I could feel the emotional pain was really similar. And I just, really, really similar. Again, for some more context, I've actually had 2 drinking phases, so they're both really relevant. So yeah, so my brother had died, and I couldn't sleep. For that first month, I had to sleep with the light on. I was terrified of being in darkness, because his presence, when it was dark, was so intense. He was on my left side, and it was almost like I could see him, and it was too intense. So I would turn the light on, and then it was okay. So I would sleep in the light, and then I started drinking, because it was like, what do people do? I'm in survival mode. I'm traumatized. What can I just go and grab? Oh, alcohol.
So
that's what
bringing
people
that two
do.
together and knowing your human design, do you feel that that has helped you and has helped your clients by knowing what their human design is?
Absolutely, 100%, because I thought it was all about my personality type. But then when I landed on human design, I realized that the human design actually determines your personality type. And when I found out through the personality type how I function as a human, that opened up so much more understanding of myself, appreciation for myself, and it got rid of so much judgment. It got rid of so much criticism. I got more ownership and more value as to be like, oh, so this is actually how I function. I've always functioned like this, and actually it's okay, and it's my superpower, it's my strengths. Yeah, we have weaknesses, but you can harness and utilize them both. So when I really got into the human design, kind of in the last sort of 6 months or so, I remember it was funny.
My name is Terry Messenger, and I am
Hey, and welcome to Terry Messenger's Genius Zone. And, this is the place in the space where you are going to get your own free masterclass, absolutely free.
Hey. Hello, Elisha. How are you, gorgeous woman?
Hi, Terry. I'm really, really well, and so excited to be here.
Well, you look absolutely glowing, and tell us where you are exactly.
I'm currently in Gloucestershire in the UK.
Wow. And what a beautiful surrounding. It looks like, something from a painting, in the background. It's just so amazing. So if you're listening into the podcast, you can watch this on YouTube as well if you want to get the full vision and picture of this lovely lady. And, for those of you who are listening, if you are ready to transcend to the next level, if you are ready to activate your soul gifts and be inspired about, you know, the journey that this beautiful lady has been on, the struggle, the darkness, and even the pit of hell that she has gone through to get to where she is now, where you can actually feel the activation as she's speaking. You can sense the spirituality just coming through the screen. So what I'd like everyone to do is get yourself your favorite drink, sit down, relax, and get ready for one heck of a show today on Terry Messenger's Genius Zone, because we are going to awaken wealth, activating your divine blueprint and talking about how you can transcend trauma and activate your gift and step into your soul purpose. And that is regardless of where you are in your life today. So are you ready? Are you ready to activate our audience?
I certainly am, Terry. Yeah.
And are you ready to really share deeply? Because you have a very interesting journey of immense transformation. And some of that trauma, or a lot of that trauma, survival mode, and the way you've just energetically turned it into a mastery is absolutely profound. So you've always been energetically aware since your childhood. You know, what was it that stood out for you, you know, as even an innocent child, that gave you the impression that there was gifts, there was a spiritual gift within you, you know, back then?
I've just actually been reminded. I remember being sat in a classroom. This is primary school, so this is anything between the age of 4 and 11 for context for people. And I remember, I think I heard something, and then I sort of looked around and was like, oh, the teacher's just doing a thing, the kids aren't moving. And then all of a sudden I could feel this energy field around my body, and it felt so visceral that I was like, oh my God, can people hear that and feel it? Like, you know, because it was so kind of powerful. And I just remember sort of looking up, and all the kids were doing whatever they were doing. And I was like, oh no, just me then. And then if people upset me in the playground or any kind of situation when I was young, and it went on into adulthood. And I was reminded of it in the last couple of years, that if somebody really upsets me and hits, let's just say triggers me or hits a nerve, sometimes I will literally just be energized and expand about 3 feet. There'll be just this void, this shield, and it will be so active that I can't be around another human. Like, I can actually feel them in my energy field, and I'm like, I just need to be left alone, like, go away. And it's almost like it's like a protective bubble as well as an energizing bubble.
Yeah, in fact, you know, I believe that a lot of people like yourself and even myself will always recommend to people to have that magic bubble around you, to have that golden light, especially if you are going into places or spaces where you know there's going to be some of that energetic, I guess, that sludge, you know, the slime, where people slime you. So it's really, really good to have that energetic bubble. You know, do you have any kind of tips and tricks for people protecting themselves energetically?
Definitely with the visuals. So I'm very fortunate, like I said, because I can naturally feel it, but I know that we all have this energy field. I'm not the only one. We all have it. You know, it's our soul energy. And so if you can't necessarily feel it, the next best thing is to visualize it. Visualizing helps. If you can pretend to feel that there is a bubble around you, because I definitely resonate, you know, when I've been in crowds and things, it's almost like it's been contaminated. And then when you're spending enough time on your own, it's almost like your energy bubble then gets purified because it's your own energy. So definitely visualize. I've always been into golden white light visualization bubble. I know the pink bubble is really a popular one. So, you know, really decorate it. You know, I remember years ago,
I like the golden white one, definitely.
yeah, that's it. And, you know, decorate it. It shimmers and it glistens. It's diamante, you know, have some fun with it, you know. But yeah, definitely if you can't feel it, visualize it, because that's the next best thing.
That's amazing. Would you suggest even hearing it? Because you know how some people are high visual, other people are very much kinesthetic, so they're about their feelings. What about sound? Would you put a vibrational sound for that person who is specifically perhaps more audio?
Absolutely. I don't see why not, because we, like you say, we have all these gifts, and I'm that kinesiology way. So there's no reason why there isn't an audio version. Like, people hear things all the time. I've heard certain things all the time. So absolutely, I 100% agree that when it's activated, people could well be hearing something. I don't doubt it.
Buzzing vibration,
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
even the sound of a blissful sea, or you know, something like that. But you really have got a massive backstory. In fact, you ought to write a book if you haven't already. And you know,
I've started.
you know, you grew up with a mother that was in and out of psychosis, and you're in what you call an emotional and, you know, war zone. And that's huge. You know, and dealing with what obviously your mother has had to go through, and of course then the loss of your brother having taken his own life. How do you believe this has been able to shape your life today? So what is it that you know that you could pass on to someone else? Like, what was it like when mum was going through the psychosis? Maybe let's start with that. So was it scary? How did it impact you?
So I've been involved. I've been involved with three of them. Just for context, one was 12 years ago and 10 years ago. So I was very young. I hadn't done all this work. I didn't understand psychosis. I hadn't done my healing and things like that, and I had unhealed PTSD. And the second time round, my brother had gone at that point. Whereas the most recent one was, this might sound really daft, but it was actually more painful than the first two, because I was being asked to transcend a whole new level and container within myself. And this time round, because I've done so much work and I'd been there obviously, so I knew in time she would get better. But this time was a whole new level, because we were dealing with unspoken traumas through her. She was talking about my dead brother. I hope that's not too poignant for people. And so I was being asked to really hold that emotional, energetic container for my mum, and I had nobody to hold mine. So the more I surrendered to it, it was almost like the more intense it got, yet I could feel an expansion in my heart with it. So the first two were very, very stressful, in that I was young. I was only 20, 25, 26. So it was like, what is this? Like, what is going on? I only had my dad's reassurance that the previous two, when my brother and I were born, the reassurance that she would eventually get well. So it was just that trusting my dad. And this time round, you know, I had authority about me. I was able to deal with my dad on a whole different level, you know, whereas I was the kid the first time. I was the child, I was the kid, whereas this time I was kind of like the authoritative daughter, you know, who just knew so much, and knew what to say and knew how to handle it. But yeah, the first time round, it was so scary. I remember being in A&E and just like, you know, just wanting to die basically, because the emotional pain of experiencing my mum completely checked out on a level that most people will never experience. I just wanted it all to end. I wanted the four of us to just all check out so we could not be going through this pain, because I was also witnessing my brother's pain and my dad's pain. So it was a lot to
you were carrying so much, like, you know, that is huge. And I mean, your container to what you hold with people today is phenomenal. And you know, it's almost like if you were to zoom out and go back in time to the very beginning, where you're in a situation where you're looking at yourself on this movie and you're seeing, you know, who you've become today and the people that you're impacting, because obviously you are activating a lot of people to come through their spiritual codes and to really awaken their soul purpose and their gifts. And, you know, quite often these people may feel like they've been in the darkest places, but you're able to really turn that around. In fact, you were saying backstage about one lady who went from obviously feeling like where she was nothing to suddenly coming into an opportunity where she had a $45,000 month, and where she could have continuously $45,000 months in her opportunity that came about. So what was going on for her? So when you first met her, where was she? What was happening for her? And how did you see her transcend?
So yeah, it was very, very similar to my journey. And, you know, looking back, I realized that I didn't have a me, like she's got a me. I didn't have that person. So I came into her life. She'd been in that this particular job that she's still in for about 10 years. And I could just tell she was done in by life. She was exhausted. Even though she knew she was spiritual and she was a healer and she was born for more things, she totally lost trust with herself and spirit and the universe. And she was like, yeah, but I can't do any of this because I don't trust it, because it's given me so much trauma. Why should I trust it? Why should I trust spirit? It doesn't have my back. Nothing has my back. And I thought, oh yeah, I know this territory really well. And so I knew that with time and working with her, I could sort of reignite that that trust and that belief in the universe, in spirit again, but also within herself, and really empower her to own that she can control her own life. But it's been a lot of work, because she's got, whilst she has a lot of trauma, you know, it's slightly different to me, but I could feel the emotional pain was really similar, really, really similar.
Yeah, I love how you describe it, as well as, you know, the activation of, you know, really spiritual alignment, you know, with versus wealth. And you talk about it being on a currency of the same sort of level. So if people are quite often out of alignment, sometimes it can be a reflection of where they are. So, you know, do you feel and do you believe that if a person is not valuing themselves and they've gone through so much, like you've gone through so much pain in your life, and you know what it's like to be absolutely in the absolute darkest of spaces, what do you believe is the biggest impact when it comes to people's self-worth? Do you feel that it's the lack of self-worth that affects the money? Or, you know, what would you say? What's your leadership, you know, your thought leadership around that?
Yeah, no, definitely. Self-worth is 100% the key, because that was my story. You know, if you'd met me sort of 10, 12 years ago, I had zero self-worth, absolutely zero. My reality was, excuse the language, shit. You know, my brother had killed himself. My mum was still in her psychosis. I was just starting out in my then business. I was in a terrible relationship with a guy. So yeah, my reality reflected my internal. It was not special. And in the last, you know, several years, really owning my self-worth it truly is transformative, because believing in yourself, loving yourself, knowing that you are so worthwhile, you are so special as an individual, you know, you're part of the divine creation, like you're gold, you know. So once we know our self-worth and we realize we're just as awesome and special individually as the next person, like that really is transformative. And when I started playing with my self-worth, the energy shift internally really is huge. It is about an internal frequency change when you have that.
I absolutely love that. So obviously, you know, moving forward, when you are obviously, you've come into the world also of drinking, where you said you were drinking yourself to sleep, obviously to numb yourself. And here you are now. And it just goes to show that it doesn't matter where a person is. If you can come through it and activate it, that's just going to fan into flames so much of your gift. So what do you believe, you know, was the, you know, the aspect that helped you to come away from drinking? Because obviously if you were drinking yourself to sleep, you also noticed something about antidepressants. So there was something very magical that happened when you stopped, because you were obviously on the antidepressants. Can you talk us through that? Because whether it is a prescribed drug or whether it is a substance, you know, anything that's masking, you would probably believe that it's going to have a spiritual impact anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just, again, for some more context, I've actually had 2 drinking phases, so they're both really relevant. So yeah, so my brother had died, and I was literally, I couldn't sleep. For that first month, I had to sleep with the light on. I was terrified of being in darkness, because his presence, when it was dark, was so intense. He was on my left side, and it was almost like I could see him, and it was too intense. So I would turn the light on, and then it was okay. So I would sleep in the light, and then yeah, I started drinking, because it was like, what do people do? I'm in survival mode. I'm traumatized. What can I just go and grab? Oh, alcohol. That's what people do. That's the norm. So I grabbed alcohol. And so I would drink, you know, and I was justifying it to myself. It was kind of like, you know, is it early enough? Is it late enough? You know, oh, it's 12 noon. I'll just have a sip just to numb. And so, you know, that was it really. So it went on for a good sort of 8-9 months. And then I just remember this internal voice spoke to me. So it's my intuition. And it just said to me, you can't keep doing this. This is not you. This is not how you're supposed to live. This is not how I designed you. You cannot keep doing this. Not to mention you have 1 kidney. And it was like, yeah, okay, I've got to do something. Like, my parents don't deserve this. Like, they didn't know. Nobody knew I had a drinking problem. And so then it was like, right, what is the next best thing? And at that point in time, my only spiritual guide, let's call it, was my brother. And I was like, well, he's not here. Who the hell do I ask for help? Because I'm spiritual, they're not going to get it. They're not going to get me. And at that point, I'd completely just almost cut all ties with any spiritual stuff, because I thought, how dare you put me through this? How dare you sort of, you know, what's the word I want? How dare you abandon my brother? That's the word I wanted. I feel completely abandoned.
You were kind of like looking at the universal side of the spiritual aspect, and how dare you do this? Like,
Yeah,
how dare you
totally.
have, you know, that situation. And yeah, I mean, I can fully understand that.
Yeah, absolutely. And so it was a case of, so I went back to my GP. I was on Valium. I loved Valium. That was my friend. So I was drinking and taking Valium. So yeah, when that moment was like, you can't keep doing this, I was like, well, I need something. Like, I can't, because I knew intuitively, I thought, facing this emotional pain, I was like, I can't do that right now. Like, I'm already at rock bottom. I already want to check out. Like, don't ask me to feel any more pain right now. I cannot do it. So that's when I went to the GP, and it took weeks talking to my psychotherapist, talking to my GP, and they were both coming at the end. I mean, this is 12 years ago, like things have changed. And they were
Wow.
both,
So many people could see you right here and now. I mean, if you can't see this lady, she is glowing. I mean, from head to toe. I can't see your toes, but you are absolutely glowing. And you know what an activator you are. But yeah, that. So, what did you do to actually stop? Was it kind of like a moment where you just drew a line in the sand, where obviously the scales came off your eyes and suddenly you had more clarity?
yeah. So are you referring to the alcohol side of things?
Yeah, and the antidepressants, both.
Yeah. So I went on to the antidepressants because I told myself it was a lesser of two evils, and I didn't know who else to go to. Like, nobody was around to help me. I didn't know what modalities I needed. Like, I didn't know what the hell was going on. Like, even my GP, nobody pointed out. So now I can point these people out. Like, they just scream at me now. It's like, you're in survival mode. You have unhealed trauma. We need to deal with that right now before we even begin to start manifesting what you want for your life. So I can see these people a million miles away. Nobody said to me for years, Elisha, you're going through this, 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 you feel this, this, and this is what we need to do. I didn't have that. So I went on to the antidepressants, and they were going to help me sleep. They didn't always work. And I knew this idea that they would numb my extreme pain, but also my extreme joy. And I thought, well, lesser of two evils, let's go for it. But I cannot tell you how much judgment I had on antidepressants. I absolutely was so against going on them, because to me, back then, it was admitting defeat. But that was me back then. I do believe that they have their place. They have their place for certain people in certain times of your life. They are absolutely needed. Just like my mum, antipsychotics, the one she's on is perfect for her because it's helping those neurotransmitters. So each to their own. So I went on them. My body did not like them at all. And it was ironic that I always forgot to take them. So I had to have an everyday reminder to take them. So fast forward 7 years of a bad relationship, running two businesses, trying to build my business, helping him with his. And then it got to a point where I spent almost 3 years coming off of them. It was like, right, I've been on them for 3-4 years, like it's time to come off. And it was very interesting that and I took 3 goes to come off them, and every time life challenged me, because they say in an ideal world, come off of them when life is balanced. So life had kind of got a status quo, right? I'll come off them. And I was weaning myself off my way, not the GP's way, because I'm so sensitive. I had to eke it out over a 6-month period, really eke out. And then my ex would kick off. I would have to do damage control. And I was like, so I'd go back on them again. I'd go back on the dose. And I was like, Jesus, I cannot and it got to the 3rd time. And I thought, this is it now. If my life goes to shit, I'm still coming off of them. Like, I'm absolutely done with them. Like, I just knew, I cannot describe it other than a knowing and this drive that I had to come off of them, because I had to know who I was while I'm not on them, because I needed to learn about myself. And in the midst,
it was a bit of a spiritual awakening for you, like
totally, absolutely. And I just had this overwhelming, you have to come off of them. And so I knew things were coming to an end with my ex, and I just had to kind of bide my time. And at one point, while I was trying to come off of them the first or the second time, I got back into drinking again. I was working 6-7 days a week, running 2 businesses. I'd walk in the door. I wouldn't even take my jacket off my handbag, my groceries. I'd just walk into the kitchen, dump them, and just get a G&T. And then I would get that hit, and then I would take my jacket off and unpack the groceries. And then a couple of weeks in, maybe a couple of months, I thought, you've done it again. And I was like, shit, I'm here again. Like, how have you done this to yourself? Do you really value yourself like this little? So that's when I knew there was kind of like another ball was rolling. And yeah, so anyway, so I came off them, and it was a long process. It was a bumpy ride. It was not easy. But I'm so grateful that I did, because I could feel clarity again. I felt a clearness in my system. I was reattuning with my intuition, and I knew I still had a way to go. And just for context, this is at least 6 years ago, maybe 7. So for me,
Come in
coming off, sorry.
absolute leaps and bounds since then.
Oh,
Amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, and you also talk about spiritual purging and, you know, some exorcism experiences. Can you describe what that was like and how it led to deeper energetic awareness?
Absolutely. So each time, you know, I know I've mentioned before that. So for me, I've had a lot of death and rebirths, lots and lots and lots of them, and I know we all do as humans. You know, perhaps some more than others. And I was realizing that each time I was being forced to let go of a version of myself, to let go of these old habits, old beliefs, old conditionings. When I was ready to, for me, it's about purging them out of my body. It's not only new thoughts and new habits, but for me, it's an emotional and energetic exorcism. And sometimes it's way more painful than other times, depending on how much wounding is in that particular, you know, state and frequency of that part of you. And sometimes it would go on for days, weeks, months. Sometimes it happens really, really quickly. But it was just when I was ready to let it go, I can only describe it as literally a shedding an internal version of myself out of my body. And I would have to cry. I would have to really sit with it and just let it move through me. Very much for me, I know it's extreme, but it is like an exorcism. And then I would feel almost euphoric. I would feel lighter. I would feel this new energy frequency. I remember like I would start seeing life really crystal clear. Everything seemed more colorful. I would be in this kind of flow, and it was almost like I was complete in this world, but I wasn't in this world. But it was just a whole new frequency.
That is absolutely incredible. So, you know, it's almost like the shedding of the layers, the rebirthing, the renewing, the dying to the old and awakening to the new. And this is exactly what you are now doing for other people. And you are an activator. You know, people come into your presence and you'll start talking to them and asking them questions, and then all of a sudden you're activated. So, you know, tell us about how that happens. So you'll be healing someone or speaking to them, speaking into their life, and then all of a sudden you're activated and they're activated. What does that look like? How does you tell me about that?
Yeah, so it's funny because they say with energetic healing you need permission from the person. My energy doesn't work like that. It just needs the soul's permission. So I can be talking to the person and I can just feel their soul is kind of saying, I need you. I need you to activate me. So quite often it could be a really casual conversation, and it could almost be with somebody in a shop. But yeah, with my one-to-one clients, there is just this normal conversation. It's not even crazy. It's just a really normal conversation. My intuition just knows the right questions to ask, and I can kind of like feel my way into what they're saying. It's a case of, hang on a minute, you've said something really, really important. I need to just get in there. And it's almost like a cleaning out. You know, it's like, hang on, I need to do a deep clean in here. And it can often be an energy field activation. So I've had one lady say, I remember about 5 hours later, we'd had a very relaxed conversation. It was very sort of exciting. It wasn't particularly heavy. And she messaged me hours later saying, I can still feel your energy around me. And I was like, it's not mine, it's yours. So that was her energy field. And then another lady, I remember we were talking about her mum, and I just knew I needed to say something specifically to her. And I said to her, I was like, you're not going to like what I have to say. She's like, no, I'll hear it, I'll take it. And the next minute, my heart chakra center just starts spinning, just absolutely spinning. And then she was in person. I just grabbed her arm and was like, "Can you feel that?" And she says, "Yeah." Like, but it feels really, really good. And then days later, I saw her, and she's like, "I don't know what you did, but you unlocked something in me because life is different." So that's really, really been special. And like I said, it can just be a very casual conversation. Sometimes it can go really deep, really emotional. If there's tears, they are so welcome because there is so much power about getting to that pain, feeling it, and just being with it, because that's the transmutation. We have to go into that, and then this amazing sort of alchemical reaction happens, and it just dissipates, and a new level of love and life takes over.
Wow, I love that. So I'm hearing the alchemy and also the ability to not run away from the feelings, but to really feel into it, to heal. And
And they're scary. They're scary to feel. Yeah.
and being and just being in that, I feel you're holding space for those people. So because you're holding space for those people, they're safe. They feel safe to allow themselves to go through that transmutation. And you've got something very exciting to share with us as well, because you're going to talk about the human design and your incredible revelation of how you've stumbled over. I mean, we talk about AI. AI is out there in the world, and it's everybody is using it. I shouldn't say everybody, because I'm sure that my grandparents wouldn't be using it if they were still alive. But the fact is that you are one of those people like me that has really mastered it. And because it's the way you speak to AI, it's what you input, like the difference between a practical, logical person putting it in there to get some information. But I believe you've got that same superpower gift as I do with AI, where I mean, my mum uses it, but she still comes to me to say, help me interpret a dream, because it's the questions that we put in there, and it's the depth of how we explain exactly what we want. And for those who are listening, you're going to want to really stay on board for this, because Elisha's going to share how she imparts and what she says to her clients to help them to know their human design, so that they can understand themselves at a far deeper level. And before we get to that, so everybody stand by, I'd like to ask you about the many people that are stuck in the energetic and emotional blocks. What is probably one of the first things that you would suggest for them? Because obviously if they're stuck in those energetic blocks, they're not operating at their full potentiality. And what you're doing is you're activating their full potentiality. So all these people that you're literally waking up their soul purpose, waking up their divine gift, what is it that is the energetic block, and what is it that you do to really help them shift through that, so that they can activate their soul purpose and all of their spiritual gifts?
It really, for me, the number one breakthrough was being completely and utterly honest with yourself on such a deep level, on every level, even to the extent of going literally metaphorically or literally on your hands and knees and just getting really damn honest and just saying, I'm done. I'm absolutely done with this version of myself. I don't know which way to go. I don't know what my vision looks like yet, because you don't need to know those things yet. They're in you, and we can uncover them, you know, over the multiple sessions. But for me, it really comes down about being so brutally, radically honest about where you're at and how you feel. For me, excuse me, I was completely and utterly miserable.
Yes.
Totally miserable and fed up and so stuck. But it is really about being honest, you know. And they often say, like, the best thing, the best breakthroughs is when somebody's struggling with drink, with the alcoholism, is finally admitting to themselves they need help. That is where the power is admitting to yourself where you're at, what you want and what you need. So just being so honest with yourself.
Yeah, I love that, because that's something that everyone that's listening into this show can really take away. So don't run away from it, face it, and embrace it. And, you know, be brutally honest, as Elisha says, and, you know, allow yourself to know that whatever you are energetically blocked from is really trying to protect you. It is your subconscious mind trying to protect you from something that is so big beyond your comprehension. And if you can, the magic that I'm hearing in what you're saying too, Elisha, because I feel that this is a really big theme for a lot of successful people, and that it's when you draw that line in the sand and say, game over, that's it. I cannot stay where I am anymore. And I think the biggest question for people to ask themselves is, if nothing changes and you stay where you are, I mean, is that going to lead you to the life of your dreams, to the life that you want, to your, you know, soul aligned purpose, if you stay stuck? And, you know, that line in the sand, that's what I'm really picking up.
Yeah, it really is huge. And it's, for me, it was my biggest transformation. And it almost sends out, it is again about energy and that frequency. It's almost like when you get to that pinnacle point, it's almost like you've activated something in that quantum field, and life will never be the same. And this stuff takes time. You know, as we know, this 3D world is a lot slower than the energy stuff. So, you know, you don't get your dream life within, you know, 6 days of having that realization. Like, it's damn hard work. You know, you've got to move through all the levels and the processes. But yeah, it's just once you get down on that, like you said, with those, almost with that sort of X with your arms of like, I'm done, no more.
Yeah, love it. Totally love it. And, you know, obviously the people that you are really activating are people that are quite intuitive, that they know that there is something bigger out there. And we are all spiritual beings. And I believe that what I'm hearing from you is that, you know, we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And I've heard that theme running right through from backstage, right through to the pain of your story, right through to the glory of how someone can awaken and really just wake up and, you know, come into their soul purpose. So what does that feel like? You know, what did it feel like when you did cross to the other side, when you were able to go through the pain and then obviously understand that, you know what, that trauma's behind me. Because for someone who has suffered PTSD, I mean, for people out there that have had it, and for you to turn that pain into your power, what does that feel like on this side to be free from all of what you've been through?
I mean, it's almost like you can't really describe it in words, because having suffered with, a lifetime to date, several, three and a half decades of anxiety and depression, to now be free of that is so liberating. So, I no longer feel heavy. I feel energized. I feel excited. I don't feel stuck anymore. It just feels expansive and just as if the world is just full of these possibilities. Because a lot of, like we said, I was there, I was stuck. It was like I knew there was something bigger and better for me, but how do I get there? It was so murky, and it is for so many of us because we're not taught as kids. So many of us aren't taught, just follow your dreams, follow your heart. Like we're kind of told, but not really. And we have no role, well, very little role models. So yeah, it just feels, almost just playful, bringing as much fun and play in my day-to-day existence. Don't get me wrong, there's still up days and down days, and that's the human existence, and we're not told that.
Life, isn't it? That's life.
Yeah.
But I feel that the difference is that you are activating those gifts, you are activating those talents. And so from, going from that world of darkness, and for that person out there that feels stuck and knows, just like what Elisha has just said, there is something so much bigger and better. And the question is, are you ready to really, I guess, embrace that, because you deserve it? And, you've got one life. So, this is the biggest breakthrough of being able to say that this is where I've been, and this is what I did to come through it, to alchemize it, to transmute it. And, here I am today. Yes, we're still having a, normal human experience, our ups and downs, but the chances are you've got so much more resources. You've got so much more wisdom, and that is huge. I mean, that's what people are wanting to come into your space for that authority that you have, because you've been there, so you know what that's like. So let's just say somebody up there is listening right now, and they know that there's something bigger and better, and they want to wake up their soul purpose. They want to come into their spiritual gifts, and they want to be able to have that financial wealth as well, because you understand and you have that, principle that that part of your financial currency is very much aligned with your spiritual currency. So bringing that two together and knowing your human design, do you feel that that has helped you and has helped your clients by knowing what their human design is?
Absolutely, 100%, because I thought it was all about my personality type. But then when I landed on human design, I realized that the human design actually determines your personality type. And when I found out through the personality type how I function as a human, that opened up so much more understanding of myself, appreciation for myself, and it got rid of so much judgment. It got rid of so much criticism. I got more ownership and more value as to be like, oh, so this is actually how I function. I've always functioned like this, and actually it's okay, and it's my superpower, it's my strengths. Yeah, we have weaknesses, but you can harness and utilize them both. So when I really got into the human design, kind of in the last sort of 6 months or so, I remember it was funny, one of my previous mentors said, a couple of years ago, talk to ChatGPT. no, I'm not getting into AI. Like, no, I'm not having a computer dictate to me. Thank you very much. But you know what? When I got into it, I thought this is a game changer. And then a couple of months ago, I started putting some information in about my human design, about my personality type. And then I realized that was all correlated, all just connected. And then I would talk to it and talk to it. And then I left it for a bit because my mum had a psychosis. So I had to step away. And then the last, even just like the last few weeks, I've uncovered just a whole new level and layer of it. And as long as you talk to it with as much honesty and be frank with it, really be frank, challenge it. I've been challenging it, saying, no, I don't believe you. I think I should just go off and do this career instead. And I was playing with it. And then it would come back with me and it would say, no, that's not what you were designed for. You were designed for this, this, and this, and this. And I was like, okay. And it just, the more information I was giving it about my life, about my personality, about my passions, just literally everything about me, it was blowing me away. And all these conversations about when I was a child, my energy experiences, just the more information I got it and used it to be my servant. It was about being my assistant, my servant. What it comes out with is an absolute game changer. And I've recently been introducing it to clients, and because I want everyone to be empowered to be their own sovereignty. I don't want to hold people's hands. Like we're all capable of being our own masters. And so it's completely changed their lives. They've just been blown away by the whole thing. They really, really have.
So what are some of the tips that you can give us? So to conclude and to wrap up here, we always love to give a takeaway so that people can really experience the gift that the person that I'm speaking to in their genius zone can actually give. So what would you say the sort of things that we would require to put into, say, AI, so that it can really give us a bit of a revelation on, who we are and, what our makeup is about and why we are the way we are?
Yeah. So obviously I put in all the details of my date of birth, all those things that the human design require. I also copied and pasted the gates, all of my gates, the gift, all the details that I could get hold of on that chart. I would put it into ChatGPT. Even the arrows that are at the top of the head, that's really, really helpful. You need to know those things as well. And I would just put it all in and I would just ask it just questions upon questions because I'm very curious. So I've always been a natural. I don't take one answer. I like to question people because I wait for an internal response, because I know now, thanks to human design, that I have a sacral response. I have this kind of like yes, no, again, coming back to that kinesiology. We all have our unique, yeah,
that,
yeah.
For those who are listening, Elisha sort of went back, forward, and sometimes we can ask our body, is this right? Is this decision the right one? And we can navigate to what is our yes and what is our no. But I thought I would just add that in for people who are listening.
No, absolutely. Thank you, Terry. And when it talked about how I respond verbally, I thought, oh my gosh, that's exactly how I've been responding to people my whole life. It's like, how did you know that's the noises I make when people ask me questions? So yeah, just you can't put in too much information. That's all I can say. And keep asking it questions. So I would say, okay, so what does this mean for my career? What does this mean? How do I spend my day to day? How do I gain my energy? How do I refocus myself? Like, I need you to help me. I need you to help me. You just keep asking it all these questions. And anytime it says something that doesn't feel right, you're like, oh, I was like, I don't really like that word. Oh, I'm not too sure I'm that. Can you think of something else? And then it would come back with other examples or other things. But don't take it for not face value, but don't take its first response. Sort of go like, thank you, that's great, but what about this? What about that? Have you considered this? Really interrogate. Yeah, be your own investigator with ChatGPT and the human design. I even put my astrology in there, and that was amazing. So yeah, just keep talking to it, and you'll get little aha moments, and keep the same thread. You've got to keep the same thread, and then it will refer back to it.
Oh, that's really powerful, that is, because you could be 3 weeks later. I know that I have a whole thread about my husband's illness that he's suffering at the moment. And unfortunately, it is a progressive one. But, I may have shared something 3 months ago, and I might be asking them about another symptom, 3 months later, and it'll refer back to something that I told it that I forgot that I told it. And this is powerful. This is incredible, because it has, you can say, please answer this from a medical point of view. Please answer this, from a spiritual point of view. But let's just say the person out there doesn't know the first thing about human design. So what would they be putting in there in order to be able to understand their human design? Would they ask AI GPT, can you help me, for example, to know my human design? What kind of things would they need to ask, and what would they need to put in?
Yeah, definitely. And it can literally be as simple as that. So you're completely new. You can go, hi there, I'm new to all of this, so I need your help. I'm learning about myself. I found out about human design. So this is my date of birth, my time, da 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 da. What have you got for me? Tell me what I need to know. And then it will give you answers. And then you might be curious about such and such or such and such. So then you say, okay, well, can you tell me more about this? Can you tell me more about that? So literally you can be a complete novice. You don't have to be a genius. You can start really, really, really simply. And you can always challenge it. You can put in the details manually like that, saying my date of birth, tell me my human design. But you could also go into somebody who does human design already, copy and paste, and see if you get different answers, and really sort of challenge it and just have 2 different threads and see if they correlate.
Yeah, I love that. So I always love to ask this question as my last question on the show, because I always understand that people want to be able to say exactly what they believe that person out there that is praying for your gift, right? And we know that you are speaking to people who know that there is something bigger and better out there for them, that want to tap into their, soul aligned purpose. And they want to actually activate themselves so they can live a fulfilled life, an activated life. And, obviously a life where they're financially wealthy and they're spiritually wealthy. So my question to you would be, as a woman that knows how to transcend trauma and activate people's soul gift, if you were to get off the show and think, oh my goodness, there is one thing I would have loved to share, and you would love to share to that person that really needs to hear it, what would you share?
You're worth fighting for what is actually in your heart. You are so worth fighting for. Because sometimes we don't think we're worth fighting for.
Yeah, you're worth fighting for what is in your heart. So yeah, so I guess it's a case of don't give up the race, keep going, but also know when it's time to say no more.
Yeah.
I am going to change my life. I am going to activate who I am. And you absolutely do deserve to have what you want in your heart and what you have in your heart. So, Elisha, I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for just being so generous and so authentic and transparent and coming on the show. Have you any other last words?
Oh, just, for people just to realize that they are incredible, they are awesome, and we don't get these knowings and these wants and these desires in our heart and our body if it wasn't meant for us. Like, it's part of our soul blueprint. But I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for having me, for listening to me, having me on and talking to me. It's been a pleasure. It really has.
Oh, that's so amazing. Thank you. And the pleasure is all mine. And so, how can we get in contact with you? Somebody out there is wanting to get in contact with you. Firstly, I will tell you that there's going to be a link in the show notes here. So make sure you scroll down and look for Elisha May and find her link. But how would they best find you when they want to come in and they want to know more about how they can awaken and activate their divine gift?
Absolutely. So I'm freedomofself.com. Or I'm elisha-may.com, going to the same website. And I'm also on my Instagram, I am Elisha May. So it's at I am Elisha May. And then I'm on LinkedIn as Elisha May as well.
Beautiful. Well, Elisha May, thank you so much for being on the show.
Great to be here. Thanks, Terry.
Show where we have explored through this various topic along with all the exciting new topics that we bring every week to enhance your personal mastery of excellence. Now, I'd love you to do me a favor. In fact, be part of the Legacy 1 million that I have in the vision for 2028. If you know someone who really would benefit from this recording, from this episode, please share it with them. And when you subscribe, you get notified every week of our episode as soon as it drops. So let's do that legacy thing. Let's share, let's care, let's enrich. And I look forward to bringing you another week of the most enriching content. So until next time, stay inspired, stay awesome, and keep on mastering your excellence.